So, Isha zona v'chalala lo yikachu, ve'isha gerusha me'isha lo yikachu, ki kadosh hu lelohav. Again, the holiness that sets those restrictions, those limitations. We've seen the uses of the participle today in hakohanim as usage of a noun. Hakohanim, we said that's a participle that functions as a noun. Okay, we've talked about makrivim, a participle that functions as a verb, and now we didn't have to wait a long time, and we see the third option. We see zona, and indeed we see okay, let's talk about this one as a participle that functions as an adjective. And you can see it's really next to an adjective. So both of these words, zona v'chalala, describe what kind of a woman they should not take in marriage. Okay? And you can see the feminine singular form of the word zona being used here as a participle. Okay? So we have chalala as a proper adjective. Okay? Halal is defiled. Halala, a defiled woman. By the way, the word halal refers to a priest that cannot serve as a priest because he's born out of a relationship that should not have occurred oftentimes. Okay, so in this context, a woman that is of a priestly descent that was defiled out of its holy status, or a woman that is not improper for a priest to marry. And next to it, you can see the participle serving to describe the same woman. In this case, zona, a prostitute. Okay, so zona v'chalala shows us the use of the participle as an adjective, and so we've covered today again a review over these uses of the participle. Another participial issue that we can remind ourselves here, we've talked about it in the context of Baruch. Okay, we've seen Baruch, we've seen other examples. Here in the feminine plural, the feminine singular, I mean, Gerusha. Again, you can see Gerusha. That's the passive kal participle. We've talked about the active participle zona. Now the passive participle gerusha. Both of these are kal. Okay, both of these are kal. Gerusha is the kal passive participle, which suggests that maybe at an earlier stage a kal passive verb existed, or binyan existed in the Hebrew, and not just the nifal serving as the passive of the kal, or the hitpa serving as the passive of the kal. Anyway, zona and gerusha, lo yikachu, lo yikachu. The root is obviously lamed, kof and chet, behaving like a pei nun, and because it's at the end of a sentence, instead of yikechu, we get yikachu. Ki kadosh hu lelohav. Again, because of these, there are certain restrictions that are demanded from those priests. Okay, so gerusha, like we said, baruch, but berucha. Okay, so gerusha meisha lo yikachu. Note, a good opportunity to show the difference between the two. The first one here is Isha, the first one that I've boxed, and the second one is Isha. What's the difference in meaning, guys?
husband and just man?
No, but the first one, Isha, is a woman. Isha, right? We have the noun Isha modified by the modifiers, which we said are a participle and an adjective.
Yeah.
Right, so Isha, noun and adjectives.
Second one is belonged to a man before. Like
So
from.
Isha here is a noun, woman. And Isha here, Isha, with a mapik in the hay, and without a dagesh in the shin, is her husband, her men. Okay? Note the two. Here, the dot inside the hay is very important to pronounce. Otherwise, they sound somewhat the same. The dagesh in the shin of Isha and the mapik in the hay of Isha are important to pronounce. Do you see those slight differences? Guys, let me highlight them again. Okay. Yeah. Here, the dagesh in the shin of Isha, and Isha, and the mapik in the A of Isha, woman, as opposed to her husband. Okay? Very good. Now I want to see the differences between Leviticus and Ezekiel, as we have here in Ezekiel 44, out of the Haftarah, verse 22, a slightly different description of what should be the marriage practices of the priests. Let's see the next verse. Yeah, Ezekiel 44:22. Guys, let's have Gary, go ahead.
Ve'almana u'glusha lo Yiqchu lahem le'nashim ki'im betul lot mizera Beit Yisrael ve'ha'almana asher tihiyeh almana Mekohen Yiqchu. Okay. They shall not marry widows or divorced women of the stock of the house of Israel, but only virgins, or they may marry widows who are widows of priests.
Okay. Right, ואלמנה וגרושה לא ייקחו להם לנשים, כי אם בתולות מזרע בית ישראל, והאלמנה שתהיה אלמנה מכהן, ייקחו. Here we have an easier time seeing the difference between the posal form, yikahu, which we already had in the previous verse, lo yikahu and lo yikahu, as opposed to the regular non-posal form, yiqchu. Can you see that, guys? You can also see how the presence of the Sheva in yiqchu deals away with the dagesh in the kof. Okay? So basically, the lamed is assimilating into the following consonant. So we expect a dagesh forte, a strong dagesh in the kof. Okay? And as we said, this root behaves like a pain nun in that sense, that the first root letter assimilates into the second root letter and we see a dagesh. But the combination of the kof with the sheva may affect the presence of the dagesh And so we don't see that dagesh in Yiqchu here, but we do see that dagesh in Yiqchu, in Yikachu, when we don't have that Shiva. Are you with me? So it's a process. It's kind of a process that has several stages. The root is Lamed, Kof, and Chet. Okay? The Lamed in Yil, we expect, like if it were to be a regular consonant, and I'm adding an asterisk, you know that an asterisk is for theoretical, hypothetical forms. Okay? So we expect something like Yil Kechu. Okay? And the Lamed assimilates into the Kof. So we expect something like Yiqchu because of that assimilation. But the combination of the Shiva and the Kof causes the dagesh here, to disappear.
That makes this a silent shva, right?
And makes it a silent Shiva, Yiqchu. But when we have that at the end of the sentence, it's a pausal form, we get Yikachu, and there is no problem for that dagesh to resurface. Yikachu, with the dagesh. Yikachu. Okay, so it's sometimes we have different stages. Okay, so that's note that in Leviticus 21:7 there is a focus on not taking a divorced woman, but almanah is seemingly not forbidden for the priests, and it's only forbidden for the high priest, the almanah. And in Ezekiel, he talks about marrying an almanah only if it's an almanah of another priest. Okay, so it's very interesting, the kind of slight differences between the almanah and the relationship between the priest and the almanah according to Ezekiel and according to Leviticus. Obviously, there are ways to explain these slight differences, but the Torah does not talk about the different status of a widow who is a priest widow. Note the word betula, which obviously has great significance in the discussion between Judaism and Christianity. What is exactly the importance of the word alma and as opposed to betula, and what is the meaning of the two? And even the word betula might not actually mean exactly the same as it is oftentimes mentioned. So we have almana ugrusha lo yikhu lahem lenashim, or isha zona v'chalala lo yikachu, isha grusha meisha lo yikachu. In all of these cases, we have the object preceding the verb, the predicate, okay, and the subject. So all of these examples show a topicalization of the object, putting the object first. This they should not take, and this they should not take, and this they should not take. Okay, so we have the object preceding the verb. What is the reason? We've talked about reasons for that in the past. What might be the reason in this case?
To stress the importance.
Right. So to talk about the importance of this and to shift the focus on that on the object. Okay. These are women they should not take. I think there is also as I said, it turns the object in a sense to the topic, even if it's not the subject. Okay, note that we really have here one really long sentence. ואלמנה וגרושה לא ייקחו להם לנשים, rather כי אם, presenting rather, והאלמנה אשר תהיה אלמנה מכהן, we have this restrictive clause. Okay, the widow, only if it's a widow of a priest, then should they marry, which again slightly differs from the Levitical